the 2020 subcommittee. We're officially a subcommittee of monuments and ceremonies, and Ken here is the liaison for Monuments and Ceremonies Commission. We'll have a liaison here from MNC from every one of our meetings.
Well,
they
for
do
most
have
of
a-
them anyway. Jim Long is my co-liaison. Both of us go to the same place in the summer, so who
Right.
knows?
Right.
I think Rob Hewlick also expressed an interest.
I don't know whether he is, I don't think he was assigned as a liaison, but why not, you know? He'll be a representative anyway.
So this meeting should last an hour. I guess we have the room for more, but I don't think it should last for more than that. Let me introduce myself. I'm Alan Miller. I'm on the board of directors of the Historical Society, and I just want to alert everybody that we are being taped. We're not filmed, but we are being taped, so beware. I'm on the board of directors of the Historical Society. I've been a resident here for 23 years. I moved up here from New York, originally from Chicago. I lived in Seattle. And if you don't know me, you may know or some members of your family may know my wife, Dorothy McClure, and she's the middle school art teacher. So I know she's had a lot of people's children go through this program. And she also works on Saturdays at her bookstore. So you probably know her by face. And I know a lot of you as well. I used to work as an engineer and an engineering manager at Sikorsky Aircraft. I'm an aerospace engineer. I was there for 20 years, and before that I worked at Boeing and other commercial and Department of Defense aerospace projects. And in November I retired. We have 2 kids, a daughter and a son, but they're living in New York. They're out of the house. So with my kids gone and retirement, I thought I'd have a lot of spare time on my hands. Hasn't exactly worked out that way, but I'm certainly not as fussed as before. Bob was the chairman here for this. I know there have been a lot of informal meetings before. Bob Pascal was the chairman. He was kind of an acting chairman. He's overwhelmed with stuff. He asked some people if they would like to be chairman. And so basically I volunteered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I said I'd need help, so he said he'd like to be vice chairman.
Wonderful.
So I think that'll be the approach. That's my intro. I'll send everybody my email. It's actually on the routing list. It's alanjosephmiller@sbcglobal.net. But I'll send everybody an email. I think I may just get another email like at amiller2020@gmail.com just to segregate everything out. I don't want to get too many emails on my personal emails. So that's it. If we could go around the room, I think I've met just about everybody now, but you go around the room and just introduce yourself. Ken?
Okay. I'm Ken Reese. I'm historian at the Historical Society. I've been on Monuments and Ceremonies for over 20 years. And Dave Pollitt, who is our chairman, asked if I would be the liaison, meaning essentially to report back to Monuments and Ceremonies, keep them apprised of what's going on here, and to red flag anything that they think needs any further action or activity or whatever. And that I'm very pleased to do. I've been involved in the organization of this. I am writing a souvenir book for the Historical Society called Darien in 1820. We are putting on a show at the Historical Society called Darien in 1820. The 2 of them presumably will be about the same thing. We're working with the town also. I was just talking to Donna about getting the town material to be on display somewhere for the show. They have the piece of paper that the man carried back to town from the state assembly, officially creating it a town. And the town would be created as soon as the first town meeting was conducted, and they have the minutes of that meeting. So, we've got all of that kind of weird stuff that is nice to say, hey, we've got it, we don't read it. But, so that's it.
I'm Maggie McIntyre, the director of the Darien Historical Society.
I'm Lisa Shanahan. I'm a board member also of the Darien Historical Society, and grew up here in Darien with Jamie's husband. Went to high school here, so have a little skin in the game.
I'm Sarah Lexokina. I grew up here as well, and I work with all the students at the Historical Society and education and the schools and all those wonderful things.
Susan Cater, and I'm a resident, 28 years. I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I'm the director of the chamber. My background is advertising and marketing and sales, and I've done a bunch of different things, and I still have some kids in school who are going off to college next year, and when he's working. And the chamber's really excited about this. We have a committee. We already have a committee at the chamber of board members who have signed up to be on the committee, and we're thinking ahead. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm Jamie Stevenson for Selectman Al. Thank you very much for stepping up to chair the committee along with Bob. It's very exciting. Glad that we're having a little bit more structure around the activities. The town of Darien is very much looking to be an integral partner in the celebration going forward. I know that there are a number of other community organizations as well that have notable anniversaries during next year, the same time we're going to be celebrating our 200th birthday. So looking forward to hearing all the plans and really bringing as many organizations together to take a little piece of what we hope will be an amazing year. And in addition to that, not only looking back at the history of the town, having 2020 be such a great marketing scheme, it also gives us a chance to look forward to where we're going because of where we've been. So, I sort of love the opportunities that brings in relation to all that's happening here in the town of Darien that's new and exciting. So I really look forward to working with all of you.
I'm Kate Larson. I'm on the board of the Historical Society and have lived in town. It'll be my 30-year anniversary this year.
Oh, wow.
Hard to believe.
Time flies. Okay. One thing we'd like to do is, since it is getting more formal, is to establish actual membership. We will be voting on proposals that come through in motions, as well as anything financial has to be voted on. Meetings will have to have a quorum. So I'll send everybody an email. Obviously, I'd love everybody to be a member. I'd like to limit it to maybe about 10 or so. We'll have tons of volunteers. I've got 3 or 4 committees that we'd like to set up. And there'll be lots of volunteers on the committees, but limiting this to about 10 to 15 people. We don't want to make it too much because then you never get a quorum.
Right.
And we have to formally vote on a lot of stuff, especially anything to do with finances. So I'll send an email out. Let me know if you want to be a member of the committee. We'll be meeting once a month. We're going to give a schedule for the rest of the year to the town. I think we settled on the second Wednesday of every month. I'm not sure if I can meet during the day. I guess all of you can meet during the day. But we want to make sure that all our members can meet when we have the meetings, either during the day or in the evening. So.
Excuse me, Jamie, as the liaison from Monuments and Ceremonies, does that just make me an ex officio member? I mean, can I do that so that it doesn't pile up on the number of members in the committee?
It could operate that way. Your position as liaison will be very important, though, because anything related to money actually flows through the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission. It will be the commission's responsibility. So you'll be responsible, or your counterpart, in reporting back the decisions of this committee and having Monuments and Ceremonies interface appropriately with our administration on any kind of funding requests or deposits, if you will.
Right, okay, no, that's fair. I guess really what I'm trying to do is not take up a committee seat because I am out of town part of the year, as is Jim Law.
Sure.
And so I don't want to have that kind of a negative impact on your quorum.
Yep, that makes sense. If you are if you want to be considered an ex officio
Yeah.
member, you and Jim, then you would be non-voting.
Correct.
Okay.
And so, just so I remember and understand, all the money's gonna flow through monuments, so
Yes.
we'll make recommendations to them about how money's spent, but we don't collect checks ever in this committee or anything like that, is that how it's gonna go? Everything gets collected
we
and
can-
dispersed from them?
Yeah, we can detail the exact procedures of that, and likely I'll talk to Jen Charneski, our finance director. We will probably set up some kind of an enterprise fund for this celebration, but we'll make sure everybody understands the appropriate flow of funds in and out.
So it seems like we should always have somebody from monuments attending though, I guess.
I think it's
Yeah,
it is
yeah, and you
appropriate
know-
to do that. Yes.
I actually talked to Linda Leary previously, and I said, during the summer months, a lot of people will be away. I said, can you Skype in? And what she said is, you can Skype in, but people who are Skyping in, they're attending, but they cannot vote.
Correct.
So we can
So
always
they're
Skype
counted
in.
as part of the quorum, but they can't vote.
Correct. So you could Skype in or call in.
What's
conference. We could do a conference call.
We'll discuss it. Okay.
FaceTime.
We are not out of touch,
Right.
I assure you that.
So that's good. You know, we can get a quorum in the summer, but you will not be able to vote. But if you're ex officio, then you couldn't vote anyway.
Can't vote in.
Well, you could also do a speakerphone.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
like that. I say
Any-
Skype,
any-
speak, any
yeah.
conference call, right? Anything like
Now,
that.
would you mind if I ask a question? When you send out your notes, could you say what what being a committee member actually is and what that entails versus being on a committee, a separate committee, you know, that's not on a member of this
Right.
group?
Right.
I might be
So-
able to help you with that. So I think what you're looking for, Al, is a group of people who will be committed to being sort of the executive management team of this 2020 celebration. Those will be people that we would expect would attend our monthly meetings or any meetings that you call, that will be available to make decisions apart from subcommittees that might be taking on an individual or special task. So it's good to think carefully about who you want represented on your executive management team from the community. For example, it might be great to reach out to someone from the library to join the management team that becomes part of your quorum and decision-making voting members of the committee.
Do they have to be residents of Darien? Is that?
That's the change we made,
made
so
that change.
so they don't, because this group is a subcommittee of monuments and ceremonies, so that allows us to capture those people who work in Darien, want to be part of this, but aren't an elector per se.
I have a question. So that was something that we had discussed about figuring out a process to hear from all the different town organizations, like the DCA and the library. But there was a question about if one of those people from the organization, like the library, is very important, but is part of the management executive team, then like other people from other nonprofits, like maybe the DCA, so we weren't sure how to
Right.
handle that part.
I've got a list that Bob put together, Bob and I put together of about 20 organizations that, once we get going, we're going to email and have a person-to-person or call them up.
So that was my concern, or our concern really is if we invite one person from a town organization to be part of the executive committee, then how, and it's gotta stay small, but what would happen like with the other people? So we were hoping just to have a process in place where the organizations could communicate their
Yes.
senses, so. But
You can do it either way, you know, I think it might make sense to include in this smaller group some community organizations, like the Historical Society, for example.
Right, true,
Um, and then others might just want to be included by virtue of, you know, special assignment, or, you know, whatever part of the celebration they're going to take. But you don't have to specifically include or exclude anybody. It's just a matter of their own interest for them and their organization.
Okay.
But to build a core group of people that are committed to taking on this management task is really what we're striving for.
Okay.
And I think representatives of some of those subcommittees could, if necessary or if desirable, come to a meeting like this to give a report
Right.
Yes.
to inform others what's going on, so that they would.
That's what Bob and I and Maggie were thinking about, having different subcommittees. So it could be a subcommittee for community outreach. Another subcommittee we're thinking about would be youth outreach and education.
Yep.
So as far as community outreach, that would be the different organizations.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
I mean, you could have enough people already here around this table to form your
Executive committee.
formal executive committee, and then you're well situated to typically not have a quorum problem.
Okay. Great, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I know there's been some kind of informal meetings before, so we don't have any really minutes to approve. But from now on, we will be taking minutes and submitting them. Maggie's taking the minutes today. I think Jamie Dawson, she agreed to be secretary, which was fantastic.
Great.
She couldn't be here today, but she'll be taking the minutes from now on. Discussion and take action on committee meeting schedule. So meetings should be an hour or so. Like I say, we're submitting. I don't know if Maggie, you submitted yet.
I haven't, I
But-
thought, but then again, we're
Schedule.
not like formalized yet,
Right.
but I did have it was the second Wednesday of every month throughout
Right.
2019 at 11 a.m., if that's okay with everybody.
So we
Do we have
can.
to vote on that?
You should vote on that, and then you can ask for Linda O'Leary's assistance, file that with the town clerk. And then they will become regular meetings,
Right,
which is what you want.
right, so should we do that?
Yeah, I'll open it up. Would somebody like to make a motion to
Make
vote on
that
this?
motion?
Anybody to second it?
I'll second.
Everybody raise their hand. So just so you know, if you vote no, it has to be noted that you're voting no. Right, that's what it's already said, so. So everybody in favor of having a monthly meeting, approximately 1 hour, here at the town, second Wednesday of every month at 11 o'clock, raise their hand. So noted. Yeah, so Maggie's got it. So our next meeting will be March 13th at 11 o'clock, and we'll get the room out in an email. Thanks.
And I'll also send everybody the dates, the actual dates of the,
Right, good. The next order of business on the agenda is the logo contest. I know, Sarah, you've been super involved in this. I haven't been following it that much, but if you want to talk about it a little bit, or?
Sure. To give you a little bit of background, one of our original meetings, I had suggested let's go to our students in town. We have some very creative students, and if we want them involved in this 2020 celebration, what a better way than to get the students involved, because then the parents show up. So I suggested that we put it out to just high school students from the town of Darien, and we had a very short lead time for them. So what I did is I sent letters to every single teacher at the high school, sign-up forms, emails, you name it. It was all over the high school. Unfortunately, I think it hit at a very bad time. It was Thanksgiving, or just prior to that, we have holidays in there, they have midterms, they've got college applications, all those wonderful things, and our deadline was January 5th. I did receive 4 submissions, 4 students, 5 submissions. And one of the emails I had sent out that obviously is in informal emails prior to this formation, I strongly believe that we should approach all 4 and let them collaborate on one design. Because they all had really wonderful aspects, some busier than others, some were really great. I just think if we have 4 students, not 15, why not let all 4 of these students have the credit and create something really spectacular? That's where I've left it. I've actually emailed all of the students and told them, sit tight, we're working on it, waiting for this meeting, because I really believe that now we're into spring, some of them are seniors, and they're less busy. So I think it would be really great to put them in a room and let them work together.
Okay, so,
Do you have any idea when something can be done to be unveiled?
I have not put a date, it was strictly waiting on this meeting. Really, because we don't have I have not seen a timeline in terms of what we need. We did discuss, obviously the deadline was January 5th and it trickled a few more days. I don't have a timeline.
Well, the only reason I ask is that, from the standpoint of the commission and whatnot, depending on what happens with this and whether an acceptable design finally results from it, or whether something else is going to have to be done. And with whatever design you come up with, then there's going to have to be some kind of graphics embellishment that goes to it. And then and only then can we budget what we're going to be doing for banners and signs and all kinds of other stuff. So essentially, we can't take a first step until we know what.
How about I have it?
Can I just second that Ken's thought, because you might remember I went up to Wilton and had that long conversation because they had a spectacular 200th birthday.
Right.
And they did say all things radiate from the logo, that's the first step, the most important step, and gotta get to it first step. And so it's really important that our deadline on that is short, as Ken says, because
Absolutely, we did discuss that. It came down to what were we going to see. I can certainly make the deadline and have something by next meeting. I just think that my discussion here was, I think we need to include all 4. All 4 may not want to, but I will make that call and say, okay, if you want to be part of it, we have to have something for our March 13th meeting.
Yeah, but I mean,
Can I
we-
just?
Can Maggie
excuse me,
talk for a second?
I think we have to keep in mind the fact that the goal is to come up with something wonderful for the town and not necessarily to provide an experience for 4 children.
So can Maggie, can I
Thanks.
interrupt you, can Maggie take the floor for a second?
So, not to speak for Bob, but Bob had asked me to just make this suggestion. He thought maybe it might be a good idea to have a youth logo for 2020, and everything for the youth have that logo that was designed by the high school. He works with a lot of some of the nation's top graphic designers, and he said that he could get it done pro bono and have 4 different suggestions for the actual official logo by next meeting. So I just wanted to put that out there, as that was Bob's suggestion.
Who else has seen the logos that have been designed?
Can I just make a comment? So, I love the idea of crediting these 4 students that really took an interest. Could we take the submissions that we have, give them to Bob and his national designers, take the best pieces from all of those designs and let it be a collaboration that
That's a great idea.
then everybody wins on
Right.
that. And we
I
don't
love
need
that
to
idea.
engage the students really any further. Just take what you've got, pass them along, and give the direction that we'd like to include components of what the students were
Good idea.
considering,
It's a good idea.
and then we'll have a
That's a great
professional
idea.
outline.
That's a
Can
great
I be in contact with that person, because I've spoken to the kids, so I know what aspects they were focusing on?
absolutely.
Sure,
I mean,
absolutely.
I got emails from certain students, this is why I chose this, and this is, and it was really,
That's great.
it was fascinating, it was great how they came up with it.
Right, I love that idea.
Fun.
Yeah.
So, I think going forward, So you're gonna be involved, obviously, taking the students' work, giving it to Bob and his ad agencies. By the way, he said the ad agencies he thinks would do this pro bono,
Okay.
which would be fantastic. And they'll come up with one design incorporating a lot of the elements that your students did.
And the students still get credit.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Right, or maybe a couple different options.
Somebody
for
want
us
to make a motion for this?
I'll make that motion.
Somebody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion's on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
One technical aspect of pro bono work, I'll have to talk with Kate and Jen about, that constitutes a gift.
Okay.
And that would be a gift to the town, so we need to figure out
How it's accepted.
yes, exactly. A very generous gift, though. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and then rights and everything to the logo, I guess there's more than, right? The copyrights or what, I don't even know.
Details to
Right.
be worked out.
Okay. Next is the calendar of 2020 events. So that's something that, if Monuments and Ceremonies agrees, that would be our purview. Like, this committee will keep the calendar for all the events. The town, all the activities, we're hope to schedule it between April and June of 2020. Like Maggie said, the Historical Society, we're gonna have like exhibition and a kickoff event on March 1st. The official day is June, you know,
Is it
Ken?
the
Well, the
12th?
official date for what? I mean, there was,
When the, maybe could you give a quick 5-minute talk about
I can't,
how
well,
we
I can't
actually-
give you the specific official dates
Or
because
incorporated.
that I don't have, but there are several official dates. There's the, the date when the successful petition was presented. There was a date when the assembly voted. There was a date when that was passed by the assembly. And then there was the date the assembly made the whole thing to be official when the town had its first town meeting, which that was in June. So it was essentially it was a process that evolved from mid-April till.
Okay.
Right. I think
And that-
we had decided that at one point, and Jamie Dawson isn't here, but it was going to be incorporated with the Weed Beach party. It was going to be kind of like a birthday bash, and it was, we
I
were
think it was
going to, June 12th, right? And we were going to try and get it as close as possible, but that's,
Is June 12th a Friday? I mean, it is a Friday, so I think that was the date that I have at least in my
Okay.
calendar.
right.
Yes, I seem to recall, but we need Ken to sort of document that timeline for us. I believe we discussed that it was June 12th where they held that final town meeting to, to bless the incorporation of the town, and seemed to work very nicely with a proposed date for a birthday party, working with Parks and Rec
Sure.
on that. So as long as, it would be important to understand specifically what dates we're working with so that we can make sure we're doing it right.
You mean, as far as when things happened in 1820?
Yes,
I'll give you a list.
Okay,
Perfect.
Right. So the next item is discussion of matters relating to 2020 celebration. So there's about 5 or 6 things that we're proposing as the purview of this committee. And I've given those to Dave and Ken, just to look over because they're from Monuments and Ceremonies, and they would have to approve that we have ownership of these 5 things. So I can go 1 through 5 or 1 through 6 of them. The first is the annual beach party. So we're not running that or anything like that. It's just our contribution, our input to the beach party. That's something we're going to need a committee to do. So if you guys know of any volunteers, please reach out to them. They don't have to be on the board, but I think we need a lot of volunteers for that. Would be a subcommittee. The second thing that we have ownership of is communications and PR. All the press releases, any website, any social media. I don't do any social media. I don't do Facebook, I don't do Twitter. My wife and kids are on it all the time. I don't do any of that stuff. Any banners around town we need, anything like that. The branding, obviously we need, and the logo. So that's another thing that we would be in charge of. Youth and education, all of that would be a subcommittee, all the coordination with the schools and everything we need. we would maintain the official calendar of all the events. So if there's an organization, the YMCA or the YWCA or whatever, some of the schools, they would give their input to us, and we would maintain the calendar and obviously publicly put it out there. This is something I'm like really, really excited about. Historical marker program. So Ken was good enough to give us 12 very important sites around the town that has sites of historical significance. And we would propose to put some type of marker or plaque around those sites. There's 12 of them. Our celebration is from April to June. So that's 12 weeks. You could do one a week. You know, it could be in the paper, a little ceremony to dedicate the plaque. And I just want to tell you about one of his 12s. I live on Roden Avenue, just up from Henley School, just up from Post Road. I pass by there every day. In fact, now that I'm working the dog, and my dog is very spoiled, I go by there 3 times a day. There is the battle on Post Road, right at those stone walls at Henley School. So there was 2 residents who were fatally shot. And what happened was some British troops were cattle rustling some of the town's farmers here, and they protested or whatever, and there was a battle there. That site, those stone walls there, get so much foot traffic. I mean, there's joggers all the time. They have the Henley Happening there every year, which is really well attended. Hundreds of people come. They have the Norton Fire Department has their yearly celebration there, right at that site. If you had a plaque there that said, you know, this is the Battle of Post Road, I think you'd get so much pride of place. I mean, I'm like really excited.
Can I elaborate just a little bit
Sure,
on the markers? This is of the style of the one that Parks and Rec put down at the beach near the launching ramp. That it's, you know, they're about this big. They're slanted like this. They're about this high off the ground, and they have a metal stanchion, and they're a permanent plastic with color illustrations and text and all of that kind of stuff. In discussing this with Bob and Al and Jim Long, the thought was that 2 things. First of all, that this would have the 2020 logo on it, so that the whole 2020 idea and the bicentennial idea carries forward beyond just this year, because these things have a long life. And the other is that these would be opportunities for individual corporate sponsorships. Now, that needs a committee, because it has to be, whatever. The final list has to be approved. I mean, I just gave you 12 or 13 or 14 hours. I don't even remember how many it was. But there's not many more than that around, and some of those may not be. I mean, for example, another one that we're just thinking is the milestone in Washington Monument down on Old Kings Highway at Goodwise Road. Because I don't think people really realize that used to be the main road to New York.
To Boston, New York to Boston.
Well, from New York to Boston, but mainly, you know, from New Haven to New York. I mean, there were other ways to go, but I mean, from when you're talking about New Haven, which at the time was 50% of the time was the capital of Connecticut, so that was a major thoroughfare, and that plus the milestone to Fairfield, which was the county seat, which was more important then than it is now. But just this kind of deal around town, and so many towns now are getting these things now that you can get a really good-looking permanent marker. So this was the idea.
Would it all be on public land? We don't have.
Well, that's the other question. I'm glad you brought that up. Many of them would be on public land. Now, being who we are, some would probably be on land in the Public Works jurisdiction, some would be on a land that's probably Board of Ed jurisdiction. Some might be under God knows what, but
Well, like the Mather House is one.
it could be,
So
well,
that's a
the
nonprofit.
other house that would be private, that they would have to sign
Oh,
up.
that is private, okay.
So, well, it's a private foundation now.
Right.
So, anyway, and it's, to do, you know, to do one a week or something like that, I think is kind of a tall order, but at least to get the whole process started, and to go on at least maybe just through the rest of the year or whatever, it might have to do it that way. We would provide the, did I talk to you about this?
No.
We would provide, we would provide the text and the illustrations as far as we could, and then it would, someone would have to, you know, produce it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do we have
So
a sense of what these things cost, having done a few before?
Dave Pollitt has it because he was looking into this some months ago, and he got the figures, I think, on the Weed Beach. Was it Weed? It's Weed Beach. But we can certainly get that.
Because it sounds like it would be a great corporate sponsorship thing.
Yeah,
It was a
I don't
reasonable
think
price.
they're hideously expensive. We put the arm on the, haven't seen any results yet. We put the arm on the people who were trying to get approval to build that house down at Rings End. That we thought that we needed a Rings End landing plaque, and that it would be really nice if they supplied it. And Wilder told me that, oh yes, they were thinking very good thoughts about that, but I don't know if we'll ever see it from them. But
Well, we'll see.
Huh?
We'll see. I mean, because I do believe that along with corporate sponsorships, there will be certain families here
Yes,
in Darien
absolutely.
that will
absolutely.
likely be very interested in participating. It's a wonderful idea. I'm curious if it, looking at your locations, I'm thinking that there will likely be some public process, maybe planning and zoning, public works, parks and rec, that kind of approval process, depending on who owns the land. Would it create an opportunity for an educational experience for students? For example, if you created a map and a trail to go
absolutely.
from one to the other?
Oh, absolutely.
I'll answer that, because right now, under the education that I handle, we get third graders to come to the Historical Society, but the fifth graders, I go to the schools and I get on the bus and we drive around town. We tell the story of the battle, we stop by George Washington, we go to a cemetery, we go to the Historical Society, we go to the Congregational Church. So we are going to all of these spots, they're just be labeled now.
It becomes a self-guided town tour.
Right.
And
But
they'll
the
all have
fifth
some
graders go.
information so that if you took that tour on your own, you could go from
Yeah.
place to place
Right.
and be educated about
Right.
that
Like
location.
a little freedom trail.
Can I ask you
I
a
love that.
question about the, the plaques? Would they be up high? Would they be on the ground? Would they be covered over by snow when the snow plows go through?
Well,
What
certainly
is
snow
the-
plows would have to be something that's one pays attention to.
How long would they be, what's their longevity?
I think they probably last around 15 years, but I'm not sure. They are considered permanent.
15, 1.5 or 5.0?
15, I think.
15?
I would guess
Is
maybe
there
at least, maybe
any
20,
reason
I
why
don't
you
know.
couldn't do brass or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, so not
Or
to speak for Bob
copper.
again, but just like the logo, like he said that he could work with the people that he works with to give us options, maybe design options at some point, so that we can like discuss and see, I guess.
We have the name of the people who made the one for the town down at the beach, and they are at a height that is convenient to read down here like this, and they stand out here like so on metal stands. It's a metal frame thing with a plasticized tilted board that has illustrations on it and a little headline and then a space at the bottom for who.
That's the one at Pear Tree.
Pear Tree. That's
There's one in front of the boat club that actually
Pear
stands
Tree.
up.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, it's taller or shorter, I don't know, but it's up here.
Be good to look at some options with the idea that we'd like the installations to be permanent.
Yeah, I think so, right, I agree.
Is it, you don't like, what do you think of the kind that they have up in Ridgefield that are on metal stands that are big brass, plaques that are very stately and
Like the one out here,
historical
like the
and-
one in the front of Darien Town Hall that talks
Yeah.
about the town of Darien.
You know, I don't think we have to do the same design for everyone. Something more important or something where there's more room, you could do a stately one. Something that is just, I don't know, on somebody's house or something, they may not want that in their front lawn. You
Yeah.
could do something lower,
Doesn't the town own like the first 25 feet of a piece of
5
property?
feet, 5 feet.
Whatever
Well, it's a
the
right
easement
of
is.
way. It's a right of way, roads right of way.
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
You
I
own-
would just
I
like
think
to
you
see
own
some
it, but then you
continuity
have
if you're gonna
right-of-way.
have a trail
Yeah.
and consistency, because then to the eye,
Yeah, no, I
as
think,
you go around town,
Right,
that
that's true.
just cerebrally links it all.
the
So-
thought was that they should get away from the old iron marker thing where it's primarily, letters on a flat surface,
Yeah.
and have some illustration
Hmm.
of some sort.
I can see both sides,
With the
yeah.
bicentennial seal,
Mhm.
so this sounds like this needs a committee unto itself.
absolutely, yes.
For coming up with design options, going through whatever regulatory process there is, and soliciting donations.
There's gotta be
Yeah,
somebody in
commission
town
under
for
us.
just metal.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
Question
so
about
we
that.
will form that, I think, Jim or Bob, myself and you and other volunteers. If you'd like, I can send out a list, in the email of the 12 or so suggestions that you put out. And if anybody else has a suggestion, the next meeting we can call them and kind of have a tentative list and vote on it, of the 12 different sites. If we could-
Well, actually, what you can
Well,
also
yeah.
do, Al, is you could come up with a list of 16 or 18 and
Okay,
see
yeah,
which
sure.
see which 12 sell. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can,
Maybe people have
if you can go with
Yeah,
that.
I guess-
affinities to places.
Yeah, that's very true. I'd certainly want that list to be discussed and vetted by the Monuments and Ceremonies Commission first.
Right.
Okay,
Well, the list would come from the Historical Society too. That.
okay.
But for this particular project, it should be places that are germane to our 200th birthday celebration. Not to say that you couldn't expand those over time to include places and times that are very relevant to the town of Darien, but we should probably focus on those locations.
Well,
that-
there isn't enough. You're down to about 3. There's a lot of Revolutionary War. There's a lot that's just early town, but Revolutionary War captures a lot of it.
It seems like it's a good opportunity to fundraise for all of those at this time,
Yeah.
even though there probably, as you say, maybe 3 that are relevant to
I mean, the landing would be certainly appropriate for 1828. But anyway, yeah.
Would it be appropriate for me to talk about the calendar?
Sure, I think there was a calendar item here
Yeah, right.
on the
Yeah,
agenda.
Okay, so
definitely.
after the last meeting, Jamie had said that she was interested in a calendar being published that would go out to all residents. And I offered to research that a little bit. So, because I'm looking into that with our chamber directory. So it was kind of a natural time for me to ask some of these questions. In Darien, we have 8,390 deliveries. And if we use the permit for the town, we save 2 cents, and because it would be a nonprofit, we'd save another 6 cents on the mailing. And there are 7,759 total residential addresses. So, it could be mailed to every household. But you would have to have all the event dates, to hit January 1 in the mailboxes. You'd have to have all those dates by October and mail it, I'm thinking really think before Thanksgiving, or right after Thanksgiving, before the mail just gets to be too much for people and it just gets put off to the side, or it hits the mailboxes, January 2nd. I did look into some costs with just, different providers. We use, for the chamber, we use Noble House Media Group to manage our digital website. And he looked into this, and he had a 24-page calendar, just 5,000 copies. Of course, we'd want overrun. This isn't enough for all the households. But you'd also want overruns. You'd want overruns here in town. You'd want them at different points at the Historical Society, different points around town. So, you could almost double it and say we'd want 10,000 copies. So the cost for 5,000 copies runs about, $12,000 for a 24-page. $7,000 for a 24-page plus cover calendar. But I think we were talking about when you were going to have we were thinking we'd have a full year of anniversary events, not just anniversary events that fall within a certain window, which that's a totally different story, because you can do a program through the Postal Service with a card that is about, I'd just say maybe 8 by 10, 8 by 6 by 8, let's say, and a certain card stock, and you can publish that, and it can go to you can choose the carrier routes that you want it to go to, and it can flood every single home in Darien, and that wouldn't be too costly. It just has to be sorted by the printer to go according to carrier route, and of course we wouldn't be selective, so you just want to funnel it to everyone.
So the calendar, the actual calendar would be the same, whichever route we take. One would be...
If it's just 3 months, maybe it's a card, and you have anniversary with the logo, Darien, and then you'd have all the dates of what's going on. The other news that I have to say is the Chamber, just yesterday, the Executive Board and I spoke about, I had researched doing a community calendar on the Chamber website, so that any nonprofit organization or even a shop in town who's having an event can post it. It must meet certain guidelines, so whatever it is, and they would upload it and submit it, and overnight, the next day, the chamber office, me and Teresa, would approve it and upload it. And we might not always approve everything, but it's endless. And it wouldn't cost, anything. And you can link, that can go to iCalendar, it can go to Google Mail, on people's phones, they could connect with the event. We can take that image and we can promote it on Facebook, we can promote it in Constant Contact, we can promote it, so you could really have a lot of different ways to get that information out. And we're ready. The board loved the idea so much that we're ready to go. And I have Peter's programming guide looking into how much it would cost the chamber to do that. So you conceivably wouldn't need a printed piece. We all get the town planner calendar. I don't know how many people in this room actually hold on to that town planner calendar.
I have one thought. So again, going back to the Wilton experience, you weren't on the committee when we did this big interview of the people at Wilton who did this fabulous birthday party. But they loved their calendar because everybody had it there, and people have their calendars on their refrigerator or whatever. And then at the back they had the list of all the year-long events. And to your point, are we really only going to do 3 events, or is the garden club going to do something, and now they're going to do something? And so maybe what we're doing is 3 months. Other people might have more expanded.
Well, it could be the year of anniversaries, and everybody can celebrate in it. The chamber could have an anniversary, the Gardner Center's gonna have an anniversary, Wilson's has an anniversary.
I know, I sort of feel like it's an and, because of course the Chamber of Commerce is great, but does everybody think to go to the Chamber of Commerce website for their calendar issues? I mean, maybe we'll get into the habit of it, but I wonder if we're in the habit now.
Well, the nice thing about having a printed calendar too is you'd have the beautiful shots of our lovely town, and people can take pride in it and have it up, and
It could be our 12 monuments.
That's
too.
what we were
I
thinking,
mean,
yeah.
which would be
That'd
Yeah.
a great
fabulous.
picture to have.
So, I think really you just have to find the person who's gonna print it. The key thing is getting the nonprofits and all the organizations to commit to an event
Exactly.
and to, you know,
And to
the
have
art-
that far out, you know,
Yeah.
especially if, like, just for example, if the League of Women Voters was gonna do a 100-year anniversary, which is not 1820, but 1920, but they were gonna do it in October of 2020, because the town stuff, they're, you know, I mean, they're pressed for volunteers like everyone else. Guaranteed they will not have the information for that in October of 2019 to put into a calendar so that it can be published in a timely basis. That could be the biggest challenge, because I think, you know, by October of 2019, we should have dates and times in place probably through June. We'd have a pretty good sense. But I think, especially if some of the stuff going on after June is not going to be town-sponsored, but it's going to be different organizations, it gets back to what people were, I just think it'd be hard to fill out that second 6 months of the calendar in terms of events. But you could also put, you know, for additional events, please see the
Website.
Well,
chamber website or
we
something.
could, what you could do is you could ask all these groups is, what's a significant date in your history? And
Yeah,
what
well,
anniversary
yeah,
are
that'd
you
be
celebrating in 2020?
Absolutely.
So that the League of Women Voters could actually have their little box, and maybe over in the corner you'd have a little historical tidbit about, you know, the League of Women Voters in Darien and how that connected to the League of Women Voters in the United States. And then, you know, for the chamber, our anniversary is August 30th, 1957. So, you know, we could do something about the chamber then. And the same thing for the garden club. The garden club is just about to have their every 5 years garden, their flower show, which is a huge undertaking. And they won't be doing too much the next year. But they could certainly do some kind of an educational piece or just something in that box about their anniversary.
And then they could just include the 2020 logo so that it might actually, even though they might not have the details, like your example of what they want to do, that hopefully they'll do something to acknowledge that special date in relation to the larger celebration for the town.
Does the town sponsor the town planner, or is that done by another advertising
I think
marketing
that's done by
firm?
another marketing firm.
Would the town of Darien also have like a calendar, like the town website?
We have a calendar on the town website that we can easily include bicentennial, the events of this committee. I wouldn't say those larger community events because it'll get lost amongst all the town meetings and whatnot, but certainly highlight the dates that this committee wants to highlight.
Yeah,
I've got a question relating to what you were just talking about. Will this committee or a subcommittee of this committee be handing out the royal warrant? In other words, will they say, you're doing this event, yes, you may call this an official 2020?
Yes, I emailed Bob and everything that would be our ownership, that this is an official
Yeah,
event.
you'd have to
It
be
doesn't have to
picky
necessarily,
about how it's
Right.
being used, because you want it to be a good quality,
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
very historical event.
Right.
You-
well, it doesn't
could be something
necessarily
that's
have
watered
to
down.
relate.
No, or something that's just for advertising purposes.
Right, that doesn't really have to relate to the year
No,
1820
yeah.
or whatever, but
Historical.
this could be, you
Yeah.
know,
So,
the flower show, it's the every 5-year flower show.
I wanted to do something about commerce, an educational piece about commerce in 1820 and how that's changed.
Well, I'm
You
doing
know,
that, that's
with the
part of my,
chamber,
that's part of the history book and part of the show,
yeah.
so you can pick up on that if you want to.
And how it related to the chamber and commerce today in town. I don't know where we'd exhibit it, but that's an idea I had.
There's
so
opportunities.
that's something I think that would be under our
Yes.
purview,
Yeah.
is to officially sanction or officially designate what's is and is not part of this.
Mhm.
And I have to apologize, I'm sticking to the agenda.
Yeah, that's
When
fine.
it said calendar,
I
I
took
thought it
us
was
off.
about this calendar, not an actual physical calendar.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
So I
so
apologize.
I'm finished anyway, talking
But
about the
I
calendar, at
love
least
the
I
idea. I
share.
love the idea of a calendar, and right, maybe one of these sites you could take a picture of the site and then a little. We can open up for a vote that this is a definite go, that we are going to do a calendar. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Can I just say, just for thought, I like the idea of a calendar, but I'm concerned that times have changed since Wilton did their bicentennial in 2002, and everybody was using paper calendars then. And I just don't know if spending $14,000 on a calendar is going to get the same kind of hits as just sending a one-page calendar that has a bunch of dates on it that people could, magnet to their fridge.
It's like the Tide card.
Yeah.
I'm throwing that out there because I know for myself, I thought, I'll never give up my day planner. Sure enough, everything's on my phone. And so when that, town planner comes, which I used to hang in my kitchen, I throw it out now. So,
Do you incorporate dates from it? I mean, so like the car is a good idea because people put that in their calendar?
I think a lot has changed.
I think it's a really good point, and it's a different, you're talking to two different generations.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is, to your point, Lisa, that if somebody wanted to really find the goings-on of this committee and everything that's happening, they might not know to go to the chamber. So how can we have greater public access to a community calendar for the events of the celebration that might not include, there might be other things on your calendar that are awesome but not related, right?
And don't stand out as our events.
But separate and aside, I love the idea of a community calendar. It's a long time
I
coming.
mean, if it's gonna be on the town website, I can link it from the chamber website. We can all link
Right.
from our
I'm just wondering how
websites.
we distinguish it from
Can-
all the other stuff that you guys have on your calendars.
I
Can you
love
sep-
the actual card
Yeah.
from a busy mom standpoint. If I get the mail, I'm apt to read a card that shows me the glimpse of the next 3 months. And we can have all over it the websites on where to go for specific information. And every 3 months have a different spot. But it's right in front of you. You have to read the mail. And then send the next one. And that way we don't have to plan 12 months. First, say an entity wants to have an event in October, but they can't plan in January. We have that time because we haven't mailed it out yet.
And you
But
really
it's a
look at
constant reminder.
I think you look at it, and also the post office has a whole presentation on the benefit of tactile products. And that it does mean something to receive mail. And I think in some cases, people these days might spend a little bit more attention to their mail than they used to in the past, and they're overloaded with emails. And it's kind of done a reverse. So getting something from the town like this could be, when it's properly designed, could be, a really nice way to connect with every single household and affordably.
So we're gonna have a mailer, it's just a question of the
What's
format.
it gonna look like?
Right.
Right.
But all those things would also be included if you guys were doing a Chamber of Commerce community calendar. We should have those dates available in multiple places. There'll be a link that'll reside on the town website under the 2020 committee. So if anybody goes to the town, they can find it too.
Would you like me to research this some more?
If you would do that, that'd be great.
Well, I've already
And then-
done some of this, I have
maybe
the
next meeting
contact
we
with the
could
guy up
definitely
in
vote on it.
Hartford, and
Okay.
I know Lisa Dixon at the post office here, and I know some printers, and I know Peter from Noble House.
That'd be great. Yeah, why don't we do that and take an action that next meeting, if you could present, and then we'll vote on it, and we'll definitely move forward.
I'll do my best.
No, you
I
don't.
might not have
So
it all.
far, it's-
I might not have the wrapped up proposal by March
No,
13th,
so
but I'll
far
do my
it's-
best.
So far, it's awesome, and I don't use that word like every millennial uses it. I think that's about it. Is there anybody else who would, any other discussions? No? So does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? Anybody second it? Okay, it's done. Thank you, everybody. It's great.
Thank you.